Hi, this is Frode and welcome back to Actualize Notes TV. Today you'll learn how to make crazy good choices in your life, in your health, in your relationships, and in your work. And these great ideas come from the book Crazy Good by Steve Chandler. Crazy Good, a book of choices. Steve Chandler is a success coach who is known across the entire world by best-selling authors, CEOs, public speakers, and a bunch of other groups of people. He is the founder of the Coaching Prosperity School and has helped over 30 Fortune 500 companies and over 600 other organizations. He says that there's bad, and then there's good, and then there is crazy good. And crazy good is something that is so good that you get goosebumps when you see it. I guess you can have had an experience of that. I've certainly had it when I saw the Rocky movie. And the book consists of 15 choices we can make. We can make either good choices or bad. So if you're into that, you'll love the book. The first big idea is gold mines. Peter Diamandis is the successful founder of 15 high-tech companies. And he says, I think of problems as gold mines. And this is really the choice between creating and reacting. When we're facing a problem, we can either see the problem and start creating solutions to the problem. I can try this. If that doesn't work, I can try this, or I can try this. Or we can start just reacting and letting our emotions take control. And Steve tells a story about one time he sat down with his coach, Steve Hardison, who he really loves solving problems. So Steve starts telling his story, and immediately he can see that Hardison is listening carefully and compassionately, and his eyes are beginning to sparkle. And as Steve continues, he can talk about his problems. Hardison is about to come out of his chair and just embrace Steve with creative joy. And when he finally finishes telling his story about his problems, Hardison asks him the question, given what is happening, what would you like to create? But Steve is not always open to that line of questioning. So he asks, is this art class? Are we back in kindergarten with finger paints? Or should we get out the Legos? And Hardison's answer is yes, yes, and yes. Because the truth is, actualizer, that we always have the choice between creating and reacting. And we want to get more and more close to creating and see problems as gold mines. If you are faced by an obstacle, challenge, or problem, just remember to take out your shovel and start digging. Who knows what you'll find? It might be exciting. And our second big idea is 5%. Dr. Nathaniel Branden is the author of The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. And one time Steve was having a really hard time because his previous wife, then it was his wife, but not now, she was having multiple personality disorder. And Steve was really struggling through these times. So he asked for advice from Nathaniel. And Nathaniel had this thing called sentence stems that he used to help people change their lives. And they were sitting and talking about how foolish it is to try to change radically from nothing to something. And Nathaniel had Steve finish the sentence stem, if I were 5% more responsible for my life today, then I would. And the sentence stem looks like this. If, then. And then you just give 6 rapid answers. Like that. So I want you to do this right now. If you were 5% more responsible for your life, not 1,005% or 100% or radically changing something. If you were 5% more responsible for your life today, then And I really urge you to do this. Write on these 6 questions. I did, and it really gives you much more clarity of what you can improve without freaking out your mind because of the giant leaps you have to take. Because change is really not a step from here to there. It's a bunch of small steps that might go down and then you go up. But it consists of all of these small steps that finally end up at a much better place. From 5% improvement to 1,005% improvement. So remember, it's much easier for your brain to wrap around 5% improvement than radically changing something. It will just freak you out. Then our third big idea is no. When we were young, many of us would get in trouble if we said no to people. Our parent, teachers, or anyone else would just tell us to do something, and when we said no, we would suffer grave consequences. Sometimes even physical punishment. You don't say no to me, boy, and then whack. And the point I want to make here is that it's hard to enjoy the things that you are getting beaten up for. And when that's connected to saying no, it becomes really hard saying no to things, people, and events that don't really matter much to you. I have struggled a lot with this, saying no. Because when people would ask me to go to parties, I would immediately just say yes, because I wanted to be liked by people. But I didn't even like going to parties. So I would go to the party, get drunk, sleep, and then, of course, the next day I would feel like my head had become the target of multiple bowling balls being thrown at it. And I would feel lethargic throughout the entire day, sometimes in the next day. And now, I become a lot better at saying no. For example, a few months ago, I got a business opportunity from a man who wanted me to join his coaching business. And it was a really good opportunity, and it sounded really exciting. But I felt that it wasn't in line with what I want to create. I want to start something on my own. And just a few days ago, I also got another business opportunity, which had some really good opportunities for making a lot of money really quickly. But that is not either what I really want to do. What I want to do is create an academy where I can help people actualize their potential. So, I exercised my muscle in saying no. It was hard, of course, because they were great opportunities, but I had to say no and be true to myself. Like Ralph Waldo Emerson said, trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. And that was a bit of a derail, but now we need to learn to say no, even though we may have been conditioned to say yes immediately when someone tells us to do something. So we will have more time for those things that truly matter, so we can serve profoundly. So what is one thing that you're going to say no to? One thing, person, activity, or event, so you can get more time for doing the things that matter. Our fourth big idea is game versus shame. This is a really good choice. We always have the choice between making things a game and becoming really excited about it, or we can shame ourselves. For example, if you want to start working out more or eating healthier, when we might be really fired up in the start, but when you fall short, as we all do, you can either start shaming yourself, saying, I should have worked out more, I should have eaten healthier, I should have done this, should have done that, like Tony Robbins often says, should all over yourself, and of course lose motivation, or you can make it a game. Start measuring, or sign up for an online community so you can start making improvements and try to beat your last score, or beat your friends. That will sustain your motivation for a much longer time. You need to make it a game. So what is your number one goal right now? And how can you make that a game? One of my largest goals is to run my first Spartan race, a series of obstacle courses that Joe DeSena, author of Spartan Up and Spartan Fit, has founded. And to prepare for that, I have a daily target of doing 1 sun salutation. Those are some yoga movements. 10 pull-ups, 100 burpees, 1,000 meters of rowing, and 10,000 steps. It feels really good ticking off those while I go through my days, and they give me a powerful and strong foundation for crushing it in the obstacle races, aside from the other exercises I do, specifically, of course, lifting heavy stuff in the woods and things like that. So, and there was also something else. Yeah, the military even uses games. They play war games because they have proven that it's the best way to prepare their people for battle. So the advice is equivalent. We need to make our goals a game instead of shaming ourselves. Our fifth big idea is experiment. The business author Dale Doughton says that experiments never fail. And Steve concludes this by saying, experiments never fail, because when we experiment, we're just as eager to find out what does work as what doesn't. Ryan Holiday, author of The Obstacle is the Way, echoes this wisdom by saying, failure shows us the way, by showing us what isn't the way. Another connection we can make is that Twyla Tharp, who is a dance choreographer, has created over 130 dances that have been in Paris, London, Broadway, New York, etc. Through her many decades of doing that work, she has often had times where she tried to improvise dance moves for 3 hours and record it, and when she looked at those recordings, she would decide only to use 30 seconds of those dance moves. So you have 3 hours equals 30 seconds. That's the equivalent of discarding 99.7% of your work. It's the same as if an author would write a 2,000-word essay and then decide to use only 3 words. But those are really not failures. Those are just the way that leads them to finding out what is truly great. In other words, failure is carving them a path, showing them what is the way, again, by showing them what isn't the way. So it's time to put on our lab coats and our really thick goggles like experimenters use, and remember that life is always an experiment between finding out what does work and what doesn't. So that's experiment. We want to make our goals a game and not shame ourselves, because then we lose motivation really quickly. Then we need to condition ourselves to say no, even though we may have been conditioned from childhood to say yes. So we can do more meaningful work. Then we need to make 5% improvements, not 1,005% improvements. It's easier for your brain to wrap itself around. Then we want to see our problems as gold mines. Get out your shovel, start digging, and who knows what you'll find. Well, that was a quick look at Crazy Good. Thank you, Stephen Chandler. What's the one idea that resonated most with you? Think about it, write it down, reflect on it in the comment sections, share it with your friends, and most importantly, what's the one step you can take towards embodying it more in your life, starting today? Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Have another awesome day. See ya.